it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Head to Head with Brian Parker. I am he. And we are joined this week by our panel. The band is back. We have Miss Lori Parker. How you doing, Lori?
How you doing? Hello, everyone.
Why are you doing that with all these dudes?
Because I just I had to step up my game because I'm in such great company.
Got you. Watching you. CJ Jones, how you doing, sir?
Hey, partner, what's good?
And we also have Mr. Brad Compton. How you doing, sir?
Sir, yes, sir. How you doing? Always
glad
to be seen.
Yes, sir. Just here, living the dream, single and ready to mingle. Let's see. And last but not, just kidding, Lori. Last but not least, everybody, he is back after a week-long hiatus. After everybody threatened mutiny and to jump the ship and to leave me high and dry. We're just head to head with Brian Parker and nobody else. But thankfully,
he is there.
Sure you would. Even
yes,
you were looking. Even you were looking a little iffy. I ain't gonna lie, you were looking a little. So, but he is back, y'all. None other than the franchise. None other than the host of the Main Event podcast. We have Mr. Jermaine Parker. How you doing, sir?
Man, it's been a long time since I left you. Should have left you with a beat to step two.
Jermaine, you should know that last week when you weren't here, we all asked to postpone.
I'm telling you, they did. They just sat there and acted like this wasn't my show. That I was just a visitor. That it was all you, and I'm just carrying the face.
Man.
But it's all you.
Hey! First of all, I watched the show. You guys did a great job. It was very topical, and as always, even though I wasn't there, I felt the vibes and stuff coming from the show. Y'all did a great job.
Thank you,
brother. I appreciate that. Now see.
Yeah.
So next time Jermaine ain't on here, you still bring your ass
bad
anyway.
With a substitute teacher.
That's how they acted. They had like how I need a regular teacher. Like they wouldn't sit in their seats. They passing notes. Ain't nobody looking at the chalkboard.
Throwing balls of paper.
Well, I'm back, and so unlike Tim Rice, I'm gonna tell you how racism is a part of whatever conversation we're about to have.
Bro, Lord, yeah.
Well,
let's do this.
I think you mean Tim Scott.
Tim Scott, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was gonna save Negro for later, but let's go ahead and talk about Uncle Tim Scott.
Oh Lord, yeah.
So everybody should know by now. Today marks the 100th day of Joe Biden as president, and we've not entered into any wars. We've not sent love letters to Kim Jong-un. Everything has been relatively boring and quiet with the White House, which, thank God, everything seems like it's back to normal for right now in that sense. And what Biden did was something that most presidents do, but they normally do it within their first 3 weeks or so within their first year in office. It's not a traditional State of the Union, but it is an addressing of the joint session of Congress, which pretty much is a State of the Union without being a State of the Union. They don't call it that because they normally figure that after 3 or 4 weeks, how are you going to get up there in front of everybody and say whether the State of the Union is strong or if it's weak or whatever? You hadn't been there long enough to really figure that out and get your feet wet. Well, this is a different year, and he definitely waited a little bit longer to be able to stand in front of the joint session of Congress. Of course, it was a little bit different this year because of COVID protocols. They normally seat about 1,600 in that massive building, and they only had 200, no guests. Only 2 guests were the First Lady and Second Gentleman. But anyway, Biden addressed joint session of Congress, started talking about some things that they've already done well as far as the COVID package and some of the other things that he's wanting to do, and still trying to pull Republicans in and come on, y'all, you know, we got to come together for the greater good, kumbaya, and all that other kind of stuff. And even though I know he know deep down in his heart that they wouldn't pass a bill if it was to have a second Mother's Day, it wouldn't matter. They're not going to do it. But he's going to have to try so he can at least say, hey, at least we tried and they didn't want to do it. I get all that. It's politics. It's stupid, but it's politics. But anyway, normally after a State of the Union address, the opposing party picks somebody to give a rebuttal. And this is their 15 minutes of fame. And the Republicans decided that they were going to roll out Tim Scott, the black senator, I'm sorry, the only black Republican senator from the state of South Carolina.
Tom.
So, yeah. I don't know if you got something in your throat, but I felt that in my throat too. So anyway, so they rolled out Uncle Tim Scott, and Tim had some very interesting things to say. Most of it was just Republican talking points, and it was just so weird to hear it come out of a black person's mouth. I'm not gonna lie to you. Hearing him say some of the same stuff that I've heard Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, Lamar Alexander, and oh my gosh, Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan and Liz Cheney, they hear him say the same stuff. And I'm just like, dude, are you serious? And he put a nice cap on it by saying out of his mouth that America is not a racist country.
He said I was trying to hold it in, bro.
He said it with
he said that shit with a
face.
He said that with a straight
like he had some conviction behind that, even though he alluded to our past because he called it the original sin of slavery, and he acknowledged all of that. He's still acting like a lot of these other people that go, well, and he said this. He said that, you know, that yes, you know, does racism still exist? He acknowledged it does. But he said, but we can't keep focusing on that when we've come so far in so many ways. But he's then basically minimizing it by saying this is not a racist country. And that's just a hard thing for me to swallow when this country is seated in racism. This country was founded on racism. And it's still prevalent today. We're wondering why black folks get executed for traffic violations. And he has a nerve, and see, so he's supposed to be working with Democrats because, again, the Republicans picked him to be their face to do to try to negotiate some kind of police reform, to try to bring the George Floyd Justice Act into reality, preferably by May 25th, which is the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's death. So they bring him out to try to negotiate something with the Democrats. And I'm sitting here watching this fool talk about America's not a racist country. And I'm sitting there going, well, then how the hell is he going to be the one to bring any meaningful reform? If you don't acknowledge the problem as real as it is, how are you going to be part of fixing it if you act like it don't even exist? What y'all think?
It's not their narrative. it's not the Republicans' narrative. See, they still trying to push the illusion, the prestige of the magic show. See, it's just like watching a magic show. You have the person that comes out and he does all the glitz and the glamour to get your eyes off of one thing when he's actually doing another. And even whenever he feels like you're tracking him pretty good, he says, oh no, that's not the magic. This is the magic. That's the way, well, politicians are, period. But in this particular case, we're talking about the Republicans. That is the prestige of it all. There's not a person with any ounce of minimal common sense that does not know exactly what is going on in this world. But what they're trying to do is just like how any court case out there, anything else, they just want just a little bit of that percent, just to have a little bit of doubt, just because you personally probably have not seen or experienced a racist moment or been part of a racist situation. It doesn't exist. So as long as it hasn't hit your front door, as long as it has not done anything to your family, then, oh, I guess it doesn't exist.
But see, CJ, let me push back a little bit, because I think that was their plan, to be very strategic with that, is that they knew that if they had a white guy come out there and say America isn't a racist country, they knew that all the black folks would automatically go, well, your privilege would make you think that. How are we going to sit there and believe you anyway? Because your privilege, yeah, you probably don't believe that there's racism, because you haven't ever had to worry about whether I'm going to get home because I got pulled over for hanging the damn air freshener in my rearview mirror. Mm-hmm. That's a reality. So let's bring out the black guy, because it's the same idea that when Candace Owens or people of her ilk get up and they say derogatory things about black folks, white folks love that, because it's like, see, we didn't say it, one of y'all said it. So Tim Scott was that one of y'all said it. So now that clears us from being accused, because see, they tired of being called racist. They get mad. They say racist stuff, and then they get mad when you sit there and call them racist, which is just weird. Go ahead, Jermaine.
The first thing I want to say is congratulations for you being able to use the word ilk in a sentence. That's some heavyweight shit right there. The other thing I would challenge you on is that they're not tired of it. It's the same reason why I tell my girls, when you stop doing wrong, the beats will stop. Not that I beat my kids, but when they're not tired of it because they keep doing stuff. And I was that the gentlewoman from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham, actually pointed out. So it's not just Tim Scott, who I'm mistaken called Tim Rice. I work with a dude named Tim Rice. I'm so sorry, Tim. You were like that dude. My bad. But so the gentlewoman from South Carolina, Graham, actually said the same thing. And
did you just say the gentlewoman?
Hey, it's 2021. I'm not trying to judge. But I've heard them talk. I mean, you've seen it. It's not. I'm not the only one.
The gentlewoman.
I'm dead.
Yeah. I'm just.
Yes, ma'am, sir.
Yeah. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. He do whatever he wants. Be like Dave Chappelle getting trans emails now. But
it's all right. We have nothing against.
My point is that, and Lindsay might have a point, because basically what Lindsay was saying was like, how can you say America's racist and stuff? Because there were enough Americans to elect Barack Obama and now Kamala Harris as a VP and stuff. And I would like to agree with Lindsay, because I once too took a math test that had 46 questions on it. I answered right one time, and I believe I'm really good at math.
Wow.
Wow. I can absolutely see his point about didn't that one make it right? And so that goes back to the whole thing about America. The more proper phrasing is The more self-aware phrasing for it would have been is that America has had a steep history of racism and stuff, but as a party, we're working to eliminate that. We understand, and we're not, none of the stuff they're going to say, right? But this is the thing that he could have said that would have gave him a little bit more credibility. Oh, and the one last thing, while I'm on Tim Scott, y'all can have him from here, is that if you are a white person, do not call him Uncle Tim or Uncle Tom. I don't care how cool you think you are. It coming from a white ally, I don't know how much you've marched and and they pepper sprayed me too. If you don't beat up and catch his hands, you'll stay away from those kind of phrases and stuff. It's okay if I do it, and this just goes back to relationship, right? Like if my wife and her friends are hanging out and stuff, and they go, "Oh, you're some bad bitches and stuff," and I go, "Yeah, y'all some bitches and stuff." I get the same reason with the N-word stuff. It's a familiar thing, and so you can't. Because you want to know why. Why can't I say it? You can't. You don't have that to say that kind of stuff. But go on with Lizzie Graham and his bad self.
Yeah, so what I got from that whole thing is that you don't beat your kids, but if somebody says Uncle Tim, they might catch some hands.
They might get beat like my kids.
If you beat them.
Okay, I beat my kids. Look, I run my house.
Tell the truth, shame the devil. Bro.
I was trying to give him a little plausible. I was trying to give him a little plausible deniability, but he crossed over.
I've seen your daughters. It's hard to believe that you beat your kids. I don't believe that at all. At all. Those girls look like they do whatever they want to do. You know what I mean?
Oh no, they do not.
Oh really?
No.
Okay. All right. I stand corrected.
Well, as they say, you can do anything once, Brad. You can do anything.
One time.
One time.
Brad.
Oh, my man.
Pray for him. Pray
my
for
man.
him. Well, Jermaine, I agree with you. And if I think he was really pandering to his base. His
Absolutely.
base of people do not want to even acknowledge racism ever existed, which is why they don't teach it, which is why it's not even in the schools like that. When they talk about slavery, they make it seem like it was a welcome thing. Like, man, I'm glad you got us from that shithole country, Africa, and put us in slavery so we'd have a better life. They try to paint it more like that than they actually talk about why slavery was such a bad thing. And they don't want to believe that the sins, they want to call it the sins of the past. And the past is the past, and you bury the past unless it has something to do with a bunch of traitorous generals and raising the Confederate flag. Then the past is in the present. But I digress.
Are we talking about January 6th or?
All of the above.
All the above.
But it's funny, so he was basically trying to wrap it up in a way to say, just because that was our past, it does not determine where we are right now. And in a lot of things that can be true. What you said would put it in the right context. We struggle with racism as a country. We're a party that is about inclusion. They're not. We're a party that is trying to be about diversity. You're the only black senator in the Republican Party. They're not doing that either. We're trying to distance ourselves by passing legislation that shows that we are committed to equal rights. You know, the only thing that they agreed on in the last week was to pass this anti-Asian hate legislation, which one GOP senator did oppose, and that was Josh Hawley from Missouri. Yeah. Everybody else, Republican and Democrat, went along with that because nobody.
If you look at Josh Hawley, that man's never had a happy ending. So I still wait. I'm back.
I would just like to say he's back, everybody. I would just like to go ahead and say that. This went off the rails like 13 minutes ago, and I've been trying to find my way back.
And I'm back,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna calm down.
I'm back, y'all. And I'm back.
It's
And black,
it's
and
it's
I'm
as
black,
it's as
y'all.
if he's making up for lost time. You know?
I am. I had so much to say. Y'all did such a great job last week, and I had so much to say. Like I'm watching, I'm like, oh, this is where I would say this, and this is where I would say this. I'm back. I gotta say.
Ooh, bruh.
Oh boy, yeah. Well, I mean, again, him to claim that, and of course he threw out some other red meat for his base to say, the economy is getting better, but it was already doing that under Trump. Before COVID, it was the best economy for Black people, women, Asian Pacific Islanders, da 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 da. He started rambling off all these GOP talking points. COVID was already coming around the bend because if it wasn't for Trump, we wouldn't have vaccines right now.
Oh, God.
And he's just trying
They
to
weren't
basically
distributed. They weren't distributed. So
Well, and you know what? That's the part that they kind of drop, and they do it on purpose. Again, it's red meat for their base. Yeah, Operation Warp Speed, because he has this fascination with Space Force and everything else. But
yes,
Operation Warp Speed was a plan to get vaccines up and available faster. But it did not have a contingency plan as far as the logistics that once vaccines were up for FDA approval, now how do you get the shots into the arms? So would I give Trump credit for warp speed? Yeah, I guess I have to give him some credit because he was the president that oversaw the operation. Do I believe his ass was in the lab with scientists mixing up concoctions and embryos and some bleach and shit? No, I don't think he was doing that.
I don't think they're looking for that kind of stuff. And so, but what I would tell you this is that if you read and heard from Moderna and Pfizer and stuff, what they will tell you is that Operation Warp Speed didn't work with them at all.
Right.
No, they did not.
And so we talk about the credit for it. I'm just not giving no credit for it. I'm just not.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't. He didn't advocate for it. If anything, he drove up the stock of Clorox.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's all he was advocating.
And tissue paper.
Yeah,
he just spent an extra $10.3 million in toilet tissue, you guys.
Well,
in 1 year.
Look, I would point out. Jermaine, you're so unfair to Trump. And fuck that dude. I'm so happy he's out because I can say that out loud now. I could say why he was still the president. But my point to be is if Warp Speed was such a success and he believed in the vaccine and stuff, then why did he get his shot in secret?
Exactly.
This is a man that, takes credit for things that he doesn't need to take credit for and stuff.
Right.
But he had a perfect opportunity. If that was, and if he had a rollout plan, he could have taken a shot, presented his rollout plan. Before I leave you, I gift you with this kind of thing.
Exactly.
But he didn't have anything like that because it wasn't there. And so I'm not giving him credit for just and other people. I mean, I'm sure everyone's worked for like a bad boss, but you still got the job done, right? And did it make him a better boss?
No.
Doing good work? I bet he took credit for your good work, but it didn't make him better. And I'm just not going to give him any credit on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and that's true because normally the scientists are still, the scientists had their credentials before he became president. All those people that had been career-long professionals had been in those fields before he came along on the scene. So other than him restricting funding or doing anything else to get in the way of that, they were still going to be able to do their part. And
if he had done like Joe Biden did, where he had two rival pharmaceutical companies come together, competing companies to produce more of the vaccine, then, so Joe Biden can stand on that, right? Because Joe Biden did that. His administration said, hey, you two guys need to work together. I think it was it Pfizer? I forget who they were working there. Johnson. I don't know who it was. I don't pay attention to that. I took a week off. I can't remember. But the point is that had the Trump administration had something to show you, they'd have showed it to you. And look at how Biden's administration pulled that off, and it wasn't like one of those things that they beat over your head for like 2 weeks, like what we did, because he's just been doing work. I don't know, he's just been presidential.
Yeah, true that. So as far as putting the bow tie on the Tim Scott thing, before I move on, Lori, did you have any feelings about Uncle Tim?
I think he's a buffoon, and for him to be carted out for the acceptance of he's one of us, it was absolutely ridiculous. And I just, again, same rhetoric, and I really wish that white America would wake up.
But do you think that because they wanted to hear what he said so badly, that because it came from a person of color, that is kind of like their get out of jail free card? Like, this is what we want to say, but if he says it, it'll mean more, because then they can't say, Tim Scott, you're a racist. But if I say it, they're going to label me as a racist. But ain't nobody gonna point to the black man and say he's a racist. Now they may say he's a coon, he's Uncle Tom, he's a sellout, he this and he that, but they won't be able to call him a racist.
Well, I personally, for myself, I don't identify with Tim Scott, because not all black people are the same. We can agree to disagree, but at the same time, for him speaking, he's not speaking to me. He's speaking to these folks in South Carolina, because again, I would say to Tim Scott, when you are driving down a South Carolina country road and you get stopped, don't sit here and card out your little Congress pin and saying, hey, I'm Senator Tim Scott. You may be faced with someone who might treat you just like every other black person that is behind the wheel of a nice car or whatever. So I think carting out Tim Scott was strictly buffoonery. But I understand that they feel that they need that to play that card. But, again, and move on or try to do something else.
So, like I alluded to earlier, the U.S. House of Representatives have already passed the George Floyd policing reform legislation, and it's been sent to the Senate. And of course, because technically there's a Democratic majority, but not really, because there's, again, so many conservative Democrats that it's almost like there's a Republican majority. There's now being talks to compromise legislation to get this bill passed. It will not pass in its original form that the House passed. And one of the reasons it's not going to pass, and I'm very skeptical that there is going to be a resolution, because there is an issue of qualified immunity. That is going to be one of the biggest hangups with this bill, that Tim Scott is supposed to be trying to thread the needle between what Republicans want. For Republicans, it's all about the language. And for Democrats, it's all about not watering down a bill till it just has a name on it and it don't do a damn thing.
Exactly.
And that's really what they want to do. They want to water it down to the point that they say, well, we gave you your bill, but yeah, it don't do anything. It doesn't change anything. The purpose of the bill is to affect policing in America. By the time the Republicans get done with it, it'll just be called the George Floyd Act, and it won't do a damn thing. It won't stop another Andrew Brown instance or Ma'Khia Bryant instance. It won't stop another Breonna Taylor instance. Those things will continue to happen because qualified immunity, what they're starting to talk about is, well, maybe we can work with qualified immunity to where the officer is protected, but the police department is more open and exposed. Well, they get sued anyway. Right. And they pay out millions of dollars. So, but if you take away, if you keep the qualified immunity where the officer has the immunity, but the police department doesn't, you're still basically telling the officer that he's James Bond. that he has a license to kill. So they can steal arbitrarily, and that's another word I used today, Jermaine.
That's too hard.
Yeah, they can arbitrarily.
Use arbitrarily.
They can. Okay. Well, people of my ilk decided to use arbitrary.
Twice in one show.
Again,
like goddamn Reed Rainbow.
Number two.
But they can arbitrarily decide who lives and who dies because of the way I felt if you were a threat to me or not, and hide behind that shield. So to me, that's going to be a non-starter with Republicans, is to get rid of, they're not going to want to get rid of qualified immunity. For Democrats, that's a non-starter to say that you don't. So I don't know how they rectify that. Well, y'all
no, because it's all about what Jermaine was talking about, the other show, not just the last one, but it's all about holding the police departments accountable. You know, that's all what we've been talking about. That's all that we've been emotionally moved about, was the lack of accountability. I know you used the word stop several times, but we all know that, you know, if they can get away with it, they will. So it won't necessarily stop these things from happening. But if they get rid of the qualified immunity, it's going to make these departments and these officers more accountable. And you're right. I mean, nobody on the side of law and order, is what they call it, is going to be up for that, because that means that they're going to be exposing themselves. That means they're going to have to actually live up to what I'm gonna say because once a cop, always a cop. We are servants of the community. We serve the community. It's not the opposite way. The community don't serve us. And I'm telling you that even right now, whenever I got a police officer behind me, I still get a little shaky. And the only time that I was ever even somewhat relaxed is whenever I was in full uniform. And it was still questionable then, because it all depends on who was behind me. Because there's enmity between state and city versus county. So it all depends on what set of lights was behind you. You know, they was going to look out for a brother in blue, or they was just going to go, hey, you know, letter of the law. Sorry, Negro. You know. So.
Well, Brad, to that point, to what CJ said, a lot of times what Republicans will say is that if you get rid of qualified immunity, now you're going to make an officer hesitate, because that'll be in the back of their head when they need to make a split-second decision. They can't, because they're worried that if they do something wrong and they're held accountable, they could be facing charges, and they need that blanket so that they don't hesitate and potentially something worse happens.
That's a crutch.
Yeah, I don't buy any of that. I think it's playing out. It's playing out right now with the case in North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
In North Carolina, it's playing out right now. We saw in you know, I thought that the police chief or superintendent, whoever he was, when he came out immediately afterwards, and look, you got my word, this is going to happen, we're going to get right to it, and we're going to hold people accountable. I thought, that's rare. You don't see that too often. But now the stall, and you see several people have resigned immediately. And we saw the car riding up to the scene, and 4 seconds from boots to the ground, 4 seconds later, there was a shooting. Come on, man. We've seen this movie 150 times before. Yeah. We know exactly what happened. You had a Yahoo who was amped up, and he's going to claim that he saw something. He saw nothing. They saw both hands on the wheel. We'll see it when it comes out, and he just shot. He just shot, and he shot. He shot a lot of times. He shot often.
He got hit 4 times in the arm and then in the back of his head.
It smells like shit, and it's going to come out. They can't hide this. They can't hide this one.
You know, I would say this, you know, you're talking about the bill and stuff, and so it did pass in the House and it's going to the Senate. And Cori Bush from St. Louis has already said they take the qualified immunity out. She's not voting for it. And I think a lot of people probably feel the same way. I know, Corey, you're not watching this, but just in case you are, I just want to let you know, I'm like Sprint back in the early 2000s. I'm free on nights and weekends. Holla at your boy. I'm not really sure why they're so amped up. They had like qualified immunity. Qualified immunity has only been around since the 60s. It was argued in 1967 before the Supreme Court. It hasn't been, it didn't stop people before then from using their weapons. All it has done is protect individuals who shouldn't be discharging, because, like I say, if you move to, what we want to do is we want to take it away from the taxpayers, because when a doctor is facing malpractice and they have to carry their insurance, right, and stuff, it doesn't stop them from being doctors, and it doesn't stop people from doing surgery and stuff. You know what they do? They just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a professional and I'm going to do what I do, and that way I won't get sued. And, you know, just look at the military, and you know, we've been in combat for like 20 years. Like it's 2021 since 9/11 and stuff, and we're coming up on 20 years of America being in some kind of conflict, peace and stuff. And how many times have you heard soldiers refusing to fire their weapons because they were afraid they were going to get court-martialed? You've never heard that. You have heard is you've heard soldiers getting court-martialed for firing their weapons or doing effed up stuff when they weren't supposed to. Ain't no qualified immunity for the military. We got our own set of codes and laws and stuff that says you're held at a higher standard because you have the ability to kill things and destroy things with the equipment that we give you and stuff. And so you should the police
battery release authority.
Yeah, and police have taken that and said, nah. We need to be protected because I don't know the difference between a wallet and a gun. I don't know the difference between shadow and light and stuff. And quite honestly, I should be in this job, and if I do something wrong, I don't want to pay for it. I want to go to the next county and get another job and stuff. And I'll have the taxpayers from this county paying for it. But don't blame me. You know, that dude was sitting in his house on his couch and stuff. I thought he was in my apartment. Sure, I killed him. You know, stupid stuff, right? Like, you know, but
yeah,
like you said, they want to take the professionalism out of it. That's all it is. It's just a loophole to really exercise or to use ignorance to replace, you know, just a poor excuse to just go cowboy on anybody and everybody that they choose to.
You know, I think too, Jermaine, the difference between the military and your local police, that doesn't really get talked about a lot, but I think it has a whole lot to do with what moves a lot of these politicians, which isn't surprising, is unions. You know, if you sit there and you start doing that with your local police force, where now the officers are basically wide open like that, those unions who a lot of times they put all their weight behind one party or another when it comes to voting, they're looking at that too. If we get these unions to believe that we're the party of law and order, because for some reason there has to be a decision. Either I'm for protecting unarmed Black people from getting killed, or I'm for the police. I can't be for everybody gets to go home at night and be in favor of good policing. I have to pick a side. You can't say Black Lives Matter and then say Blue Lives Matter, because it's one or the other. And I don't know how we came to that, other than it's a political thing to do.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting the point that you make about unions and stuff. I mean, for so many different reasons on that parfait of conversation, because
I'm sorry, parfait?
Layers, baby, layers.
It's got layers. It's got layers. I got kids straight from Duncan.
I got you, Jim. I got you, Jim.
It's the vocabulary show.
Yeah. And Cori Bush, again, I'm available and I'm good with words.
Oh God. Shoot your shot, bro. Shoot your shot.
I don't know, something about that St. Louis thing.
Right?
It's just funny to me because Republicans are generally against unions. And so the fact that they bow to these unions and stuff, it's just that hypocritical stuff over and over and over and over and over again. It kind of makes you sick to your stomach.
It does.
How do we get here? Well, the unions. Y'all don't even like unions.
Well, it's a symbiotic relationship, man. They exist together. You know what I mean? And they know it. In every major city where there are a lot of black folk, they are hand in hand with each other. I remember back before Giuliani was elected, the police union damn near rioted in front of City Hall while Dinkins was still mayor, the first black mayor elected in New York. So no, they work hand in hand together. They need each other. They need the votes of all the police and their families. And the police unions want the backing from the Republican Party. So they are inextricable. I hit you with 2 words. I hit you with 2.
Yeah, I heard.
I'm giving you both.
I was actually keeping count. I was keeping count. You know what? Look, I did not bring my nickel and dime word today.
I done brought on 4 articulate black people. you speak so well.
They're so eloquent of speech.
These are the ones that won't get shot because they speak so well. Yeah.
I would hop on Brad's point, and I would say this, just to add to it, is that the reason that they have such a symbiotic relationship, you can't use, you were using his word, but the reason they have that relationship because they're the same people, and that was the thing. It's kind of like you look at things and like I'm so mystified. Like when we look at COVID and stuff, they're like wear a mask, and they're like we won't wear masks, but for since slaves were released, they've been wearing masks. To hide who they were as they were doing terrible things and stuff. So I don't know how you breathe through a full hood, but then the is tripping you up. I'm not quite sure how.
I need a microphone. Drop that mic.
Wow. But if I had a microphone, I would drop it. I would drop it right there.
Oh, that was a mouthful.
That's a microphone drop right there.
That was a mouthful.
Hold on, Jeremy.
There it is. The reason I even bring it up is because it's not so much, it's the hiding their identity and stuff. And so when we talk about, they work so well together, is because they're all in the same club together. Now, I'm not saying everybody's in the Klan. I am just saying that they are in the same special interest thought together, where they believe the same things, and therefore they are grouped together. And that's what emboldens them and strengthens their symbiotic relationship, right? And so the problem with the police unions and politicians is that if there was, I'm not saying the Klan's still out there, but if there was, I bet if we started unmasking them based on COVID, not because I want to unmask people, I'm not dotting people out here, so, but if we were to take the hoods off of our Klan leaders and stuff, I bet they would be our politicians, and there'd be a lot of police in there. In fact, I think they had a thing out as they're doing the January 6th thing. They're digging and stuff. They're finding that there are people saying, "Oh, law enforcement is training the Proud Boys." They're doing all this stuff. So all this stuff's in together.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
Former military who've been radicalized, and when I saw the truck driving up to the young man's house in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, it looked like a paramilitary. I mean, it looked like, it was an overseas operation, and they were going to take somebody out.
It looked like overkill, didn't it? Like they were just serving a warrant.
It made me ask. I said, "Well, wait a minute. What the hell was the warrant for?" I mean, what
you would think, honestly, guys. Like honestly, I actually thought that it was like a violent felon that was on the loose.
Right.
Like seriously, like beware, armed and dangerous. Take all precaution. That's the type of speed. That's the type of manpower I saw. And I was looking at it with the volume down. But then when I looked at it again with the volume up, I mean, I was just like, wow. Like, you would really think that we were after some insurgents here on our soil.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I don't
The
know
only
if it
time that
matters. What do we know what the warrant was for? Do we know what?
I think it was drug charges.
Okay. Okay.
But still, I mean,
Right.
drug charges,
Non-violent offense.
it was non-violent.
Right.
And that's the thing. Anyway, that brings us to our law enforcement note for this show day today, guys. I have two things for you. Two short things. First thing is that there is no such thing as an accidental discharge from a firearm.
Oh, I was about to say, because when I was 13, I had a lot of accidental discharges.
Shut up. I'm talking firearm. No such thing as a accidental discharge. Okay. Just think about what happens. Okay. You pick up the weapon, the firearm, you pull the trigger. There was nothing accidental about that. That was thought out, that was processed. Okay. The other thing was the difference between law enforcement, military law enforcement and civilian law enforcement. Battery release authority versus qualified immunity. Like I said, like I was alluding to before, qualified immunity is just an excuse just to act stupid and go cowboy. We don't have it. We just have battery release authority, and it forces you to be professional. It forces you to be very cautious because you realize that you do have the right to take someone's life. And it doesn't matter if they speak your language and all this other good old stuff, blah, 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 the way that some of our friends across the aisle like to paint and everything. But there is no such thing as weak excuses from the military side of the house goes. So those are my two things. Qualified immunity is just an excuse to just be ignorant, act ignorant, and get away with it. And no such thing as an accidental discharge.
All right.
Yeah, he's on that. And, one of the things I remember when I really first started deploying stuff, remember this guy, hell of a soldier, but one of the things I took away from him was he said, when you go over here, you need to be professional, be polite, and be prepared to kill everybody you meet. But he drove, but the driving home was that wasn't the lead off. It wasn't be prepared to kill everybody you meet, be professional, be polite. It was at the end of the day, you're going to protect yourself because we want to come home. But that's not what we're here for. We're not to kill people and stuff. We're here to help in our jobs and stuff. And so, I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's what people are asking from our police force, is that you're part of the community. You should be part of the community. And that's what the big community police and know who your community is and stuff. Not just driving in for somewhere to collect a paycheck and stuff. And it doesn't matter what's going on in the community. These ignorant monkeys do whatever they do over here and stuff. And I got to rough them up to try to keep them in line and stuff. That old mentality of what it is, police and stuff, knowing who your people are, knowing that it's nonviolent offenses like that. Hey, why don't we just serve this dude like we serve so many other people? And especially with the war on drugs, with opioids ravaging the whites, I would think they'd be a little bit more sensitive to drug stuff and nonviolent offenses. We got a ways to go. But I believe we get there. I really do. No cynicism for me.
Oh,
but
I lost. Is that 3 or 4?
I think that's 4.
It's 5.
Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on, carry the 1. Yeah, it's 5. It's 5.
I don't know if this is a game, but I'm trying to win.
Yeah. Oh, did we already touch on about the second part of the Chauvin situation, guys?
What's that?
What's the second part?
I just caught a little bit of the highlight, but from what I understand, and this is kind of connected to the whole qualified immunity thing too, even in the courtroom. you know that the prosecution was trying to bring up Chauvin's history of violence and how he handled people of color, and it was 18 cases outside of George Floyd, and qualified immunity had a lot to do with the judge made the decision that he wasn't going to allow anything to be reflected on Chauvin before all of this took place. But now they're rewinding the tape back, and now he may be brought up on federal charges to go hand in hand with the charges that he already has, because now there's evidence of him jumping on a teenager in pretty much same manner.
Oh yeah, the 14-year-old where he had his
twice
knee
as
on
long.
his neck for twice as long as George Floyd. Yeah.
And so now they're gonna, but see, that's that whole qualified immunity thing. We don't want to smear his name, but then we want to take the victim. We want to victim blame. We want to blame the victim for the police officer having to take him out. Part of
the problem, CJ, is and remember, until we got the video of George Floyd, the police department put out a statement that this man had a medical situation.
Oh yeah.
Well, and if that had just been allowed to remain just that part of the story, it would have just seemed like another unarmed black person in police custody just dies for some reason.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm gonna take up for Chauvin on this one, because quite honestly, I mean, he been laying on niggas' necks for like 19 and to him, 9 minutes. You ain't this dude choked that after 7 minutes,
bro. You tapped out already.
That's all you got.
That's all why his hand, guys. Listen.
That's why his hands was in the pocket.
Just go back and look at the video. Hands in the pocket, like, bro, I do this. Ain't nobody worried about you, bro. I do this.
I
got at least another 9 minutes. I got at least another 9
right. That's how I know he's faking. That's how I know he's faking. Because I've seen people do longer.
Yeah,
or that's how I know it. That's how I know it was the drugs, because most
it had to be the drugs.
Most people did it for 12 minutes, right?
So you know what? But you know what? Now I understand the defense. Now, I understand the defense. That's why he was being like, "Come on, guys, it had to be the drugs."
Yeah, this is 9 minutes.
This man knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
he's been choking people out.
I'm out here on these niggas' necks deep.
They call me the choker.
Hey, I don't know if any of you guys did any of the protests and stuff last summer and stuff. And so I went to a rally, and the police were there. It was up in Hickory, North Carolina. One of the ones I went to, and so we kneeled for that 9 minutes. And and I'm telling you right now, that is. If you just looked around at everybody kneeling down, there was no one who just laid there on their knees. There was a cop beside me, and he had to change knees and stuff. And I said, professional can't do it,
bro.
So I'm just saying, and like I say, this dude again had a teenager who was like 17, 18 minutes. I mean, it was
17. Yeah. I want to say they said 17.
I mean,
and he was unconscious, right? He was unconscious. It was his neck and his back or something to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, guys. And I mean, so it all makes sense. Like the more and more they dig into stuff, just like how what's happening here in North Carolina. The bow is going to break there, Brad. The bow is going to break, and we're going to see it, and it's going to be the same show, just a different face. The bow is going to break.
And when they didn't come out with the video, and they were like, not only did they not come out with the video, the stuff they had was redacted.
Yeah, when they said, I was like, what?
Oh yeah, you don't believe so?
Yeah, they told him we're only showing you pertinent parts.
No, but hold up. Why are you? Today's Monday. You resigned one day after the incident, bro. Like, how is that? Why you resigned already? Like,
but it's just like, oh, girl, divorced Chauvin.
You know that smell.
Come on.
Yeah, it smells bad. It smells bad. And see, the sheriff is trying to be all like, like Brad said earlier,
Political,
like, we want the video out. You know why he
Yeah.
can say that? Because legally he knows he can't do it.
Right.
So he can say all the right things, so he looks like the good guy, because at the end of the day, if the judge says no, he says, well, hey, I wanted it out, but the judge is the one holding this up. That's all he's doing.
Well, or the DA. He's like, oh, the DA argued against that because we got going on. I didn't have nothing to do with that. You know, a lot of people hide behind that kind of stuff. You know, I do that when I beat my kids and stuff. It's like, it's not me, it's God that wants you to beat.
Yeah.
Well, how long?
I'm just a vessel.
The question is, how long will they be able to hold that tape? Will they be able to hold that tape until after the proceedings?
Yeah, they could.
Floods and floods of red tape.
The only reason they have body cam video is so they can go back and laugh at it later on. Did you see the cops that looked at the 87-year-old woman that they tackled, and they were cracking up. They thought it was hilarious.
He literally said, did you hear the pop? When he threw her down, her shoulder popped out. They're listening to hear an 87-year-old woman with dementia's shoulder pop because they were rough with her.
Right.
Anybody that watched that little bit of footage could tell that this woman did not have all of her faculties. That made me so mad because she kept saying, I'm trying to go home. I'm trying to go home.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that she wasn't quite there. And this was because of $13 worth of stuff she didn't pay for at Walmart.
There were two videos. The day before, there was the video of the actual arrest of him rolling up on her.
Yeah.
Like she was, like she was Pretty Boy Floyd. He rolled up on her and threw her to the ground. It was so bad that a Latino brother walks up to him and says, hey, man, I saw what you did to that little kid. And no, it wasn't a little kid. It was an 87-year-old woman who was having issues. And anybody could tell that she was having issues. It's just like the other tape of the young man who was wearing a hoodie and they killed him. And you could tell by his conversation something's not right. Something should have told you, whoa, chill out a little bit. This kid ain't right, or this woman ain't right. Something should have told you that. Mm-hmm. That's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
That's terrible. And then they're watching the video, and he's a big man, and he's all like, "Yeah, I handled her, dude. You're bragging about throwing a 100-pound, 87-year-old woman to the ground."
Right.
I've been to Thailand a couple times, so I bragged about throwing 100-pound women around. So I kind of get that.
You and me both. You and
I'm not touching that one, bro. I'm not touching that one.
I love you.
Brian, not to make any comments.
Those are the ones that go up on the shoulders real good.
Yeah.
Listen, Brian, you need not to make no comments. None.
On the wall. But here's the thing for me, and we're talking. I gotta say this in the time frames of the show is that I believe there are great police officers out there. And I wish that they had that they would allow like the police unions, not necessarily the police themselves, because I understand that if you're an officer, you have social media and you talking about other officers and stuff, maybe it doesn't play out well depending on who leads your department. But at least the unions could distance themselves, sort of like when they in the Chauvin case. His people were like, yeah, we don't do that here. Yeah, that's not normal and stuff like that. It makes you feel better when people say, hey, that dude's not part of our profession. We don't do that and stuff. And people are visibly upset when that kind of stuff happens. Instead of we don't have this silent curtain stuff. Years ago, early late 90s, there were some Marines in Japan that ended up raping this girl over there and stuff. And if you remember that story and stuff, now they were dealt with. And it was very, very clear that these guys are not part of us. That is not how we behave. And that's just one of the things I say, it's just dealt with better. It's it's government agencies, just who's funding it, federal, local, whatever and stuff. But just being adamant and saying, no, those are bad apples, because the way it looks right now, it's just like it's a bad tree. And so, if you want us to believe it's just bad apples and stuff, then you need to ostracize and distance yourself from those behaviors and stuff. Like if you're sitting, like if I'm sitting here and stuff, and my boy get caught cheating and stuff, immediately I'm telling my wife, I never liked that dude anyway.
You know that's real.
Values that I share and stuff. Like,
So you know what? I think we've all been in situations where we've maybe worked retail or we worked odd jobs, and client or the customer walks out, and we have our coworker to coworker conversations, right? Oh, that guy was crazy or whatever, and you should have seen the way I did this. But like somebody said earlier tonight, no, man, these are police officers. We hold you to a higher standard.
Right.
This is unacceptable. They should have been fired immediately after that tape came out, and I don't know if they were or not. But no, they needed to be fired immediately.
Yeah. Well, and the idiots not realizing that they've been taped and this is going viral. I'm pretty sure that this isn't going to be the last we heard about it. Real quick, we got about 2 minutes before we wrap up, but I'd be remiss if I did not at least mention that Count Dracula is in trouble. Count Dracula kept going on and on and on about election integrity and trying to find dirt on Joe Biden. And I ain't heard no more about Hunter Biden's laptop, and God knows when. They tried everything they could to keep yesterday from happening. And karma's a bitch. So now Count Dracula's office and apartment got raided yesterday at 6 o'clock in the morning by the DOJ. So they're moving on their case to determine if he's been doing some crazy stuff in regards to Ukraine. And, I got a feeling that, number one, you don't get a warrant for a lawyer because of attorney-client privileges and things like that, knowing that you're going to have to deal with a lot of that unless you really got something. And then you would have to then put that in front of a judge to make them say, yeah, if we don't go get it this way, we can't rely on a subpoena because he may try to destroy it. We got to go in there blazing. That's what they did with Roger Stone. That's what they did with Michael Cohen, to say, hey, we can't even trust that if we say we need you to keep these documents, preserve them, and bring them, that wasn't going to go down that way. We got to go in full blast.
Right.
And that's what they did. And of course, Dracula and Dracula's son, the imp, they're all trying to deny it.
Who actually might be trying to run for mayor or governor of New York.
Governor, right.
Governor, excuse me, governor of New York.
That ain't happening anymore. But so yeah, the to be continued for sure. But
well, in the words of Rudy Giuliani, let's have a trial by combat, please.
And it's a witch hunt.
Please.
He said it's a witch hunt as well. They're just trying. They're going after me because they're just mad. They're just mad.
Right.
I don't even know how to end it any other way than trial by combat. How wax poetic is that?
Really?
Wow.
All right. Well,
I give a title of franchise to Brad.
It's Brad's show today. Brad, CJ. There you go.
I'm glad you guys were able to work out your contract dispute and you paid the man, and now Jermaine is back. Bravo.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Brad. I didn't quite catch that part. Well, that's going to do it for this week, man. An hour goes by so fast with my great panel and all the good insight. CJ Jones, as always, thank you, sir, for coming in, chiming in on law enforcement. Brad, love your contributions as well. Lori, thanks for keeping me fed and, making me look good. No,
there you go.
And great input as well. And as always, we couldn't do it the way that we do it without the franchise bringing his different perspective and point of view in, and just on his behalf, because he didn't know, but I do know that Corey Bush does watch the show a lot, and she does watch you, and you got a shot, bro. You got a shot.
Well, the whole Thailand conversation, I don't think it went over too well. So you kind of had a shot and lost the shot.
She from St. Louis. She from St. Louis.
Bruh,
you believe that she would be deterred by something like that?
That's a small thing, right?
A small thing. I'm trying to make her St. Louis.
She like in the East New York part of St. Louis too.
Yeah.
So you can't scare
This
her.
conversation is soft.
Yeah, you can't scare her.
Yeah.
All right, y'all, but we're going to wrap it up. And thank you always for everybody that's watching, whether you're catching us on YouTube, whether you're catching us on Roku. Thank you so much for the support. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, get vaccinated and wear a damn mask. We'll see you next week.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and